yet, but everyone in the league unanimously agreed that that should happen. Now, the other thing is Alabama going to be playing in that SEC championship game? Greg Sankey actually told me yesterday that if they do go that route, they would obviously have to determine their division winners beforehand. So I think that's why they weren't quite ready to say that it's not possible for this game to happen because of December 19th.
It's a complicated process, but we knew that from the outset that this was likely to be the case. Greg, let me ask you this, though. As a player on a top-ranked team, especially, what's this like to be getting ready to play a pretty important game and then all of a sudden, no, you're not playing and you're going to have an extended layoff?
Yeah, it'd be crushing for any momentum that you were able to build up over the last few weeks. And I, for one, and I can't speak for Joey, but I was a momentum player. When I got things going, I could carry it over from 1 week to the next. And if for whatever reason I was contact traced and out of the lineup for 2 weeks, didn't get to practice, didn't get to work out, and didn't get to participate in games, it would have had a major effect on my ability to put my best foot forward as a player. So I think, or at least I hope, most of the players handle it better than I would have, but that would have been a real detrimental blow to what I was trying to accomplish with my teammates throughout the course of the season.
I think the difficulty in when these shutdowns happen is whether you get to practice or not. If things get shut down or you have to sit out and you don't get to practice, let alone the game being moved back. But if you're not practicing, that is just one step further away from being prepared to play when you do get a chance to play. This is completely different. It's something that nobody's ever had to deal with in the past. So we'll see how these teams come through it. And these coaches' jobs are twice as hard this season because of these situations where they might have to try to motivate their team in a week where they don't get to play, but still motivate them to still try to focus on getting better.
It's not easy. There's no question. At least I guess you could argue it's Tuesday. In some cases, these games have been canceled or postponed as late as Friday or even Saturday morning. Let's take a look at what we've seen so far in the SEC. The latest game, this week's game between Auburn and Mississippi State, 3 of the 4 games that have been postponed in the SEC have been rescheduled for December 12th, and that's the week, as you heard Heather mention, before the SEC championship.
This game has been everything we thought it would be.
We head to overtime number 2. Powers to the end zone. Kyron Williams scores again. It is over. And the Irish have knocked off number 1 Clemson. In the midst of the pandemic, there is pandemonium.
We're not celebrating because we showed the world or we changed the narrative. We did it because we proved something to ourselves.
Well, and they did. Let's take a look at this week's college football rankings brought to you by Goodyear. Alabama has replaced Clemson as the number 1 team. Notre Dame moved up 2 after defeating the Tigers on Saturday. And speaking of Clemson, it's the first week this season they have not been ranked number 1 in the AP poll, and that's what happened. So we look now at the fallout, having seen the Irish beat the Tigers, Joey, and what do you expect that means in 2 weeks when we see our first CFP rankings?
I think it absolutely means that Notre Dame's going to be in the top 4, but I think they were going to be in the top 4 before this win against Clemson. What's going to be interesting is moving forward is if it is possible, let's just say Notre Dame wins the rest of the games, which they should, and they get to the ACC championship game, I do believe then it gives them a 2-way go. If they happen to lose that game and play a respectful game, I think they're still in the playoffs. So it'll be interesting, not just what happens in the initial rankings coming out, but what happens moving forward further down the road. Notre Dame might have solidified their chance to get into the playoff.
Not only have they solidified the possibility of getting there, but they find themselves in a position where they'll be the home team with home locker rooms in the ACC championship game, potentially in a rematch against Clemson. So ultimately, last week's game, is it a big deal? Of course it is. Massive win for Notre Dame, proving to them that they can do it. If they follow their process, they can run the football, they can defend, they can stop and eliminate Travis Etienne, having a huge impact on the game. So it was a huge belief and culture builder for Notre Dame. But they have to do it again, unfortunately for them, if they want to solidify a spot in the college football playoff. They can still get there if they lose to Clemson. That's not out of the realm of possibility. But to guarantee themselves a spot, they have to beat Clemson in the ACC championship game.
Well, look, the Tigers were playing without Trevor Lawrence, but it really wasn't the quarterback position that was the problem. So looking ahead, Greg, do you see some pitfalls or potential issues with Clemson?
I do. And they have to get healthy on defense. We talk about Trevor Lawrence, that's fine. They're also without Tyler Davis along the defensive line. James Skalski, their quarterback of the defense and middle linebacker, has missed the last couple games and is going to be out for an extended period of time with an arm injury. So they have some problems on the defensive side of the football. They gave up some big runs in this game. Ian Book, I thought, did a really nice job of taking advantage of one-on-one coverage. And if you look at Clemson over the last couple years, guys, we gave so much credit to their offense, and rightfully so, but this team was built from the inside out. And right now, inside at linebacker along the defensive line, and even sometimes at safety, they're not quite what we've come to expect from them. So still some growing to do for Clemson's defense.
Yeah, it's interesting that the projected #1 overall pick can be out and your offense doesn't slow down. Now, there were some running issues in the run game with ETN not being able to get him going. But ultimately, when you watch the game, it's those plays on the defensive side that are an issue. But so we didn't believe that any team could actually take ETN out, which is, he's the 2-time ACC Offensive Player of the Year. And so when we've watched this offense, week in and week out, ETN has been an absolute monster. And finally, he wasn't there. So give Notre Dame all the credit in the world for being able to take ETN out of this game and their running ability. But as we look at Clemson moving forward, it's not just ETN, it's not just the offense, it's not just when Trevor Lawrence gets back, Greg, you're absolutely right. That defense for the second straight week have given up those plays to the outside and man-to-man covers that really make you wonder further down the road is say they get to the playoff, playing Ohio State, playing Alabama, maybe even Florida if they get in. Those teams that have the ability to go downfield outside could be an issue for Clemson.
Greg, do you have any concerns at all that Trevor Lawrence will pick up right where he left off, given the few weeks out?
He might not pick up right where he left off, but he's got DJ Uiagalelei that's breathing down his neck, so he better play well. No, I'm just kidding. He's not going to get replaced by the true freshman, but I expect Trevor Lawrence. He was on the sideline last week. He'll be back in practice, and he's played a lot of football. I'm just not that worried, Wendy, about him being rusty. I mean, he is one of those guys that is above the level of everybody else, even when he has a B game. So I'm just not that worried about him stepping in. They should be just fine, but when they get back to the end of the season, when they play against the likes of Notre Dame again, possibly in the ACC championship, when they get to the playoff, hopefully, if they are in fact victorious in that game, then that's when he's going to need to be at his best. But at this point right now, he can still kind of work his way back into the lineup and get comfortable with that supporting cast.
Understood. And of course, Clemson has a bye week, and then the expectation is Trevor Lawrence will be back. The loss to Notre Dame, however, broke a number of notable streaks, including their 36-game regular season win streak. That was tied for the fourth longest streak in FBS history. The Tigers returned to action Saturday, November 21st, just before Thanksgiving, by the way, at Florida State. And here's the aforementioned Trevor Lawrence on how he's feeling in his recovery from COVID-19.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling, normal, back to my old self. Feel good. No more symptoms, really. I mean, still taste and smell are a little bit weird, but I feel great, feeling normal. But yeah, it was definitely tough being on the sideline and not being able to play, but I'd rather be there than be at home watching, and just, any support I could offer, any, extra set of eyes, whatever it was, some help for DJ, whatever it may be. I was just glad I was, there to be a part of it and just be with the team. Obviously it didn't go our way, but wouldn't have wanted to be anywhere else.
Doubleheader action Saturday on ABC. Fresh off their big double overtime win against Clemson, the second-ranked Fighting Irish traveled to Boston College. That's at 3:30 Eastern. Then at 7:30, it's number 13 Wisconsin and Michigan at the Big House. Both games on ABC and the ESPN app. Still to come on College Football Live, how about the second biggest game of Week 10? We'll find out what Georgia's loss to Florida told us.
College football